Thank you, Shanika, and good morning to you and members of the press and listening audience. Jagdeo now admits that PPP friends, families, and favorites stealing hundreds of billions of dollars through contract awards. While Jagdeo remains in self denial and self delusion over the high and rising cost of living, his recent rantings against corruption in public procurement are, however, acts of pure political deception. The VP is training himself to give the impression to the Guyanese people that he is now aware of the rampant corruption in the awards of contracts. He wants the public to believe that he is now aware that most contracts go to the friends, families, and favorites of PPP party executives and PPP government officials. We in the opposition have been highlighting this issue to the nation for over 3 years now. We have been exposing this fact at many of our press conferences, budget presentations, media interviews, and public meetings. Jagdeo cannot claim he hasn't heard because, as is known, he listens to all of them or has his staff transcribe them for his bedtime reading. So, for him to admit at his quarantine outreach on Tuesday that most contracts are going to a small set of families and friends is a total political sham to attempt to fool the public that he is now up to speed on this matter. But the Guyanese people are not fools. Everybody knows that only family, friends, and public officials who are involved in these widespread acts of corruption are PPP connected, PPP appointed, or PPP by membership. Guyanese must understand the scale of this corruption crisis in public procurement. Since the PPP took office in August 2020, we are talking about hundreds of billions of dollars worth in fraudulent acts and transactions. Moreover, we're talking about a relatively small group of people channeling these hundreds of billions of dollars into their own pockets and more than likely into funding the PPP party machinery. Furthermore, Jagdeo and the PPP are in the habit of calling on the opposition and others to provide evidence of discrimination, corruption, and other government bad acts. Well, he himself claims to have growing evidence of corruption in contract award. Beyond the empty rhetoric about cracking down on the perpetrators and his fake moral outrage, no one expects him or the PPP to take any serious action. Corruption in the award of contracts is a PPP political and business operation. Expect more empty rhetoric from Jagdeo on this and other issues as the elections draw closer. We call on Guyanese to recognize that the only way to reverse this sleazy state of affairs is through a change of government. Right now, 50% or more of every $100 is lost through PPP corruption and financial mismanagement. A PNCR-led government in its first year in office will significantly reduce this loss and put the money in the hands, purses, pockets, and bank accounts of the people of Guyana. I'll read the second part of today's press statement. And this would cover the outreach that we had in Charity Squatting area just recently. On Sunday, 21st of July 2024, a PNCR delegation led by party chairman Sherwin Holder MP and General Secretary Sherwin Benjamin, and including PNCR, RDC, and NDC councillors, local activists, and other regional officials visited the flood affected charity squatting area in Region Number 2. The visit was aimed at assessing the situation and listening to the concerns of the affected residents. Concerns raised by the residents included: one, flood damage. The delegation observed extensive damage to homes, infrastructure, and crops in the area. Many residents had lost their livelihoods and were struggling to access basic necessities. The residents claimed that they have not received flood relief or any other form of cash grant, although there was a grant distribution activity recently in the region. The reason that the grants are only for a selected few who are close with the government. Two, government response. Residents expressed disappointment and frustration with the government's response to the disaster. They claimed that the Prime Minister visited the area briefly and failed to engage them, leaving them feeling unheard and uncared for. Three, discrimination. Residents allege that they have been discriminated against by the government due to their socioeconomic status. They felt that they were neglected and left to fend for themselves during times of crisis. Four, incompetence. Many residents criticized the government's disaster management efforts, citing inefficiency and incompetence in providing aid and relief. Five, man-made flooding. Residents complained that the area was flooded on several occasions due to a breach of the river dam, where a pump station is currently being constructed. They claimed that the contract was awarded since July of 2022 for a duration of 1 year to a close friend of the PPP government who lacked the competence to undertake the project. The contract is now long overdue. After 2 years, with revised deadlines, the project is less than 10% complete. Instead of the community benefiting from flood alleviation, they are now suffering from flooding induced by the project itself. Six, poverty and vulnerability. The delegation heard firsthand accounts of how poverty and vulnerability are exacerbated by natural disasters, leaving many residents struggling to survive. Seven, electricity and water. The area remains without access to the basic amenities such as potable water and electricity. Eight, roads and drainage infrastructure. Roads and drainage infrastructure is almost non-existent in the area. The residents complain that while some level of work commenced 1 year ago, 90% of the area remains in a deplorable condition. The concerns raised highlight the urgent need for an effective disaster response mechanism, more robust community engagement programs, and economic empowerment in vulnerable communities. It also brought into question the PPP's government policy with respect to public procurement and illustrated how their corruption continues to damage the livelihood of ordinary Guyanese. We urge the government to take immediate action to address these concerns and to work towards building a more just and equitable society.
Another slap on the face of the nation's teachers. No doubt, all fair minded Guyanese join with our teachers in rejecting the insulting government proposal of 6 to 7% salary increase over the years 2024 to 2026. It is another slap on the face of teachers. One is hard pressed to even call 6 to 7% an increase, given that food and other types of inflation have reduced and will continue to reduce real or disposable income of teachers, public servants, and other wage earners. Guyanese must note that while Jagdeo and the PPP continue to sit on their hands and allow hundreds of billions of dollars to be embezzled through corruption in the procurement system, They have no shame in offering Guyanese teachers crumbs and dreads. This PPPC government is unrivaled and is callous and absurd. We, as the next government, are already on record as promising teachers and other public servants much higher salary increases. We are also on record as planning to ban the payment of income tax for low to medium income workers in both the private and public sectors. I thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I will take questions, and today we will be focusing on the press statement. Any questions?
Yes,
Mr.
a very good morning.
Good morning to you.
My question is for Mr. Sherwin Holder. Now, the award of contracts is nothing new, and we have seen most of them not being completed. When you talk about Mr. Jagdeo now admitting to corruption in the contract, has the party been trying again to get a comment from the Public Procurement Commission, which is supposed to govern the award of contracts?
Oh, that's the question. Oh, thanks, Adam. For a minute, I thought you had no questions. That would be a new precedent. Thanks for the question, by the way. Look, I think at this stage where we are, the Public Procurement Commission has a role to play, has a very, very important role to play. And you would know, Adam, while we were in government, the kind of role that they were playing in terms of ensuring that the rules are being followed and complaints are being dealt with. You would have had the likes of, I believe, Miss Carol Corbin and others there who did a fantastic job. Uh, but the truth in the fact is that, look, we were two different governments. At that time, our government had zero tolerance on corruption. And so entities like the Public Procurement Commission were allowed to function in the way that they should have functioned. What we find over the last 4 years is that the PPP government would have been eroding every agency that has oversight through various means. They stack them. In most cases, they stack them, and they have a majority on these commissions. They stack them with their own point persons, close friends, close affiliates, and so it is impossible for these agencies to actually work. What we are promising the Guyanese people is that once we take government after the next elections, we will work. We first of all, we will have zero tolerance for corruption. I should say that from the onset, and we will work to strengthen these commissions who have this responsibility and this oversight to ensure that contracts are awarded in a fair manner, that to ensure that the rules, the established rules and procedures are followed to the T. We may have to do some of this by legislation. We will have to give more teeth to the Public Procurement Commission. We will have to give more teeth via legislation, I believe, to entities like the Integrity Commission to ensure that, for example, that there is no conflict of interest, or when a conflict of interest exists, they can act upon it. And so those are some of the measures that we, as a party, intend to take to ensure that we stamp out much of this corruption. We'll also have to provide more staffing, and I believe more autonomy to the audit office. For example, you always have, and look, every Monday you look at the Public Accounts Committee meeting at the Parliament, and you see the same uh, thing being repeated week after week, year after year. At some point in time, we have to bring that to an end. We must take the recommendations seriously, and even if we have to legislate new laws to ensure that those entities can act on the recommendation in a way which would prevent for the erosion of the laws, the procurement laws, or in a way which will ensure that the procurement, the way in which we do procurement in this country, it is followed, the procedures, the right procedures are followed, then so be it. That is what we will have to do. That is what we are committing to do as a new government, to ensure that we stamp out corruption and we have a fair procurement system where everybody can benefit in a fair way, especially the people of the country.
Supplemental. If I'm to
It
if I were to supplement the answer or complement the answer given by the party chairman, I will say, Adam, that such questions should be directed to the Public Procurement Commission. Why? They are persons who are living in Guyana. They have knowledge of these corrupt activities. We would have provided over the last 4 years a number of issues with contracts, with the procurement and tendering process. They need to conduct a thorough investigation and ensure that in the first instance, the country is given what the contract says, and secondly, ensure that the friends, family, and favorite of the People's Progressive Party do not benefit in total from these contracts. So I would say that we should ask the Public Procurement Commission to comment on the prevalence of these kinds of corruption in the award of contracts.
Thank you.
Another question then, please. Of course, they approached the PPC, and they said that they weren't in place when some of these contracts were awarded and therefore could do nothing, which I don't believe is true. However, the next question I would like to ask is, has the party been documenting the unfinished contracts, the number of extended deadlines and all of this for publication?
Thanks, Adam. We too believe that is not the case. Um, we believe that the Public Procurement Commission can act on any matter. It doesn't mean that when the life of the commission come to end and a new commission come into being, that they cannot act on something which would have occurred maybe, let's say, a few months ago, when the life of the old commission would have ended. I think that is ridiculous. But we leave that for the lawyers to determine. It's something that we will have to look at much closely. But the short answer to your question is yes, Adam. We have been tracking a lot of these unfinished contracts, and they're not too hard to track because they're all over the place, Adam. I just came out of South Rumvelt, and the Aubrey Barker Road there would have been under construction for the last year, over a year now. And if you look at, if you were to assess the progress there, you were to do a progress report, that too might be just about or under 10% complete. And it seems to be that they're just doing it in a hodgepodge manner. You have somebody doing something up front, they destroy the road, they leave it for a couple of months, and the traffic and the general public suffers because of that. No work is being done for several weeks or months. Then you go to the back, you now see somebody is trying to construct some culvert there, maybe just about 40 meters, 30 meters of culvert there. So you're wondering what really is the plan, what really is going through the minds of the people, those in charge in government. When you go down to Homestretch Avenue, same thing there. I haven't driven there in a few days, but the last time I drove there, it was chaos there. They broke up that road and create unnecessary traffic situation. They are creating flooding. If you go to Conversation Tree, that road there, they've since removed one of the contractors. You go to Cemetery Road, chaos. It is complete chaos across this country with respect to contracts. And so it is very easy for the party to document these and have an accurate record of the PPP's failures when it comes to award of contracts. And when you look closely, when you look deeper to who are the persons, many of them are close affiliates to the government. I guarantee you, if you look at the procurement system, you go and you look at the awards of those contracts, you will find that there are lots of discrepancies there. But as we're discussing the public procurement commission, they will tell you, oh, we didn't get a complaint, we didn't receive a complaint. And in cases where they have complaints, they have other excuses. At the parliamentary level, we just received the report for 20 up to 2023. I wish I had a copy of it here. I hope that Bar Jagdeo has a copy at his next press conference and explains what exactly they're saying there. You have dozens of complaints there that is not being dealt with. Silly, frivolous excuse. I'm really sorry I don't have it to read what is in that report. So we have at our disposal, and we have been keeping close watch of all these major contracts. I should have mentioned the famous one, the pump station that was given to Critic for 800 and something million. That is still undone as well. So look, that's what we were saying in this report, Adam. Jagdeo is being very shameless. He now wants to come to the public to say, it's not him. It's not he and Irfan Ali who's responsible. Somehow it's those at the lower level, and it has now come to light. It's now become apparent after 4 years in office. He now recognizes that there is rampant corruption and that his comrades, his very comrades, his government, those who were appointed and handpicked by his administration and placed into these ministries and these organizations, they are the ones who are now benefiting from hundreds of millions of dollars. It's preposterous. It's ridiculous. It's shameless. And we've got to replace these people from government. We have got to remove them from government. It's the only way that we can really deal with this thing. It's so wide scale. And so we've got to be very, very careful. Now our oil money is embroiled in this. Our oil money, they're withdrawing hundreds of millions of dollars. I just read the newspaper and saw them withdrew 300 million US just recently from the natural resource fund. And all of this is going where? You could only imagine that huge sums from these oil resources are going into the pockets of friends, families, and favorites through these very contracts, because this is the way the money is being siphoned off.
Mr. Shaw?
Yes. Good day, Mr. Holder.
Good day, then.
Could you say precisely what amendments do you intend to propose to the changes in the law governing, one, Procurement Commission, and two, the National Procurement and Tender Administration Board?
Well, look, I can give you broadly the framework that we would like to see. For example, I'll give you a simple example. At the tender board level, in I believe all of the 10 administrative regions, there are no opposition reps there. The formula for the selection allows the government to basically select who it wants on the board. We believe that it should not be that way. And given the extent of corruption that we are seeing and all the problems in terms of award of contract, we believe that you should have an opposition voice there. So even if we're in government, we will ensure, or if we have to legislate it to ensure that you have opposition and other civil society voices from reps from civil society there, then we will do it. So I've given you a little example. Another thing that we want to do is maybe, and this is something that we're looking at, is the access to information. We may have to go back to the drawing boards and put more stringent legislation in place in terms of so that anybody can access information easily. As it is right now, if you write the Commission of Information, you get a long list of excuses why you can't get information. Uh, for example, on awards of contracts, etc., they will not give you the kind of information that you need so that you can come as an opposition and expose it in the public. They will not. And so we'll have to look at legislation to correct that. We will have to look at stronger whistleblowing legislation as well. We believe that this is an area which would expose any government or any administration and have them on their toes, have them on their P's and Q's, so that they have to be extremely careful, because once you have legislation, robust legislation protecting persons, you expect that more information will come out to the public floor, and so that is another way in which we can push back. I don't know if you were on the live before when I said that we will look also at strengthening the Integrity Commission. The Integrity Commission has vast responsibility, and it while while it makes statements, it attempts several times to publish names. That is as far as it goes. We want to see a stronger integrity commission, and in cases where you have conflict of interest, public officials, contracts being siphoned off to them, uh, the integrity commission and maybe other agencies can come in as well. So those are a number of areas in which we think we can tackle this corruption head on, especially with regards to the public procurement and tendering system.
But I didn't hear you provide me with what precisely is you want for the amendment to the law governing the procurement commission. What it is you really want in that regard?
That is, once we put it concrete on paper, we will make that available. I've given to you a broadly in broad terms what is it, or where the party is going, the direction where the party is going. Now you would know we're in opposition, and I don't think you think that we will actually put a bill at this point in time in the parliament. It will be a waste of time. They will vote it down. We've tried to do several things at the parliamentary level as an opposition over the last 4 years, and it will be a complete waste of time. Once in government, we will have our framers. You have persons, experts that look at legislation. It's not just for the party or our lawyers or persons who are experienced at the parliamentary level, but you have experts who will look at every piece of legislation or every aspect of it, and then you craft it based on the broad policy position of the party or of the government. That's the way how it's done. So I've given you in broad terms the direction where we will go, but at this point I won't give you the specifics of it to say, well, we'll pick out this piece of the legislation, we'll take out these words and we'll put in those words. I'm not going there today. I'm just giving you the broad direction of where we want to go.
Thank you. Any other? One.
Question.
Go ahead.
Yeah, boots on the ground. Now, there is the PNC, and when you talked about the outreach, that was the PNCR outreach. Are the other members, the other coalition partners, involved in this outreach? Because the opposition is more than the PNCR.
Thank you, Adam. Now, look, I have seen pictures of all our partners or most of our coalition partners out there doing similar activities. Adam, you will know that the PNCR is what I would say the heavyweight in the coalition. We are the largest bloc. We've been run for more than 60 years, going to 70, approaching 70 years as a political organization. And so we, as the largest party, would have more resources, more human capital, more, well, generally more resources, and um, have a greater role as we usually do in terms of these outreach and everything that is coalition within the coalition. And so as a party, we're just continuing our work. We know that the way to tackle this PPP government, who has lots of cash at their disposal, who are funneling those cash into their pockets, or the pocket of their friends, families, and cronies, who want to use, for example, the monies budgeted by the parliament in terms of cost of living relief, use it in a way to buy votes. The way how to tackle that is to be on the ground and in constant contact with the people, because at the end of the day, people are suffering out there. And so we have established a vast, a very elaborate outreach program across the country. We've been doing outreaches in Region 2. We've been doing on a daily basis, or almost daily. We've been in Georgetown and around Region 4 on the East Bank and other areas. We're doing outreach in Berbice as well. Just a few Sundays ago, I was in Aichoni, and I know the other officials from our party, their teams going to other areas in Region 10 as well. I was just recently in Bartica, myself and the General Secretary. So we're having an outreach program that is covering the entire country. We're wasting no time. We are going to take the fight to the People's Progressive Party, because we intend to be the next government. And the way to do that is to be in constant contact with the people. That is the way we will understand their issues. We will see firsthand their troubles and their problems, and know how to deal with it.
Ms. Williams?
Trina Williams, Ghana Chronicle. Mr. Holder, follow up on what you're talking about with the whole tendering process. This system was in place under the previous APNU AFC government. Can you say why weren't these recommendations done, since the system is so ineffective? And also, since I have the mic, Mr. Benjamin, I know that you're now serving as the General Secretary of the party. However, your predecessor had made a number of allegations of infractions, causing her to resign. Could you speak on these allegations and how you plan to use your role to now put the PNCR in a better light?
Okay, just before she goes, Ms. Williams, I did note at the start of the press that today's press conference will focus on the statement. I do not know if the chairman will indulge you, but I did make mention of that will take into participate. Chairman.
All right. Thank you. On the press statement, your question is why these recommendations were not forthcoming while we were in government. Look, the simple answer to that is that while we were in government, the levels of corruption, you would agree that there weren't these levels of corruption. And so there would not have been the need at that time, or persons within the administration probably would not have seen the need at that time to introduce more stringent measures, because what existed was clearly working. Now you have a regime that is totally corrupt. You have corruption in all aspects, all sectors of society, whether it's the police force, and we've just seen what it's currently transpiring in the police force. We see somebody trying to put $16 million into some account and all these different things. Daily, we're being fed of corruption in the various ministries, whether it's housing, we're hearing persons offering money being paid to give house lots. We see we see PVP activists, even PVP activists making certain pronouncements out there on record. You got the famous hot dog fellow on record. If you don't do certain things, then you wouldn't get cash grant. So it is very obvious that the corruption has increased 10 times, maybe 100 times over. And so to correct that mischief, to correct that problem in today's context, we see the need to improve and to strengthen. And this is normal, this is very normal. Once as society progress and you have problems being developed, you must seek solutions to them. And so in today's context, you have a corrupt government that's bent on corruption. And as we get closer to elections, we're seeing more and more corruption coming out. And so there is absolute need to introduce legislation. I'll tell you this. The vice president, we saw him in his living room on a video, the vice media video. And that created a perception in the minds of a majority of Guyanese. A few days later, he said that there should be a probe. The day after that, you had Robeson Ben committing to a probe. The day after that, you had the president calling for a probe. 2 years later, nothing has happened. And Barra Jagdeo can come to the microphone and tell people, oh, he just learned about corruption and it's his own officials, when he himself is embroiled in certain allegations of corruption, for which he himself would have called for a probe, and nothing has happened. And therefore, we believe that if officials are not willing to do whatever is necessary, if the president and vice president, the highest officials in government, are not willing to take the necessary action through their own volition, through their own actions, then we'll have to look at legislation to force agencies to investigate or to do the things that will ensure that they prevent these levels of corruption.
If I were to complement what the chairman would have said, when the APNU AFC was in government, the Public Procurement Commission was given the necessary autonomy to operate, and therefore they did investigations, etc. And of course, he highlighted the fact that there wasn't corruption at this magnitude. It is mainly because the commission was allowed to do its work. Now, the commission is filled with friends, family, and favorites of a particular political party. Back then, we had a commission that was fitted with professionals, and we allowed them the space to do their work independently. So in fitting the system, we need to ensure that the government fill these positions with competent Guyanese and give them the autonomy to do their work, free of political interference.
I want to give you an example to complement what the General Secretary has just said. The fact that we allow the process to work. The Abramsville Secondary School, I recall it because it's from my region. You had a system which was followed, an award was made, and you had a contractor complain that he was the lowest bidder. Immediately, that process was stopped and an investigation was done, and whatever corrective measures were taken. Just to give you a simple example of how we operated as the APNU AFC. Nobody is saying that corruption did not exist, but it is the way how you deal with it when you come across these corrupt practices, how you deal with it. That's what matters in the end. And in the view of the public right now, the public generally believes, and we believe in the opposition, that corruption is aided and abetted by those high officials in government.
If I were to answer,
I have a follow-up, please.
1 second. Yes, Jay.
if I should answer the question posed, I know it's separate and apart, but I allow you to answer the question. I'll answer the question nonetheless. The harsh reality is allegations were made. The question is whether the allegations are factual or not. That's left to be determined. As General Secretary of this party, I intend to ensure that my work stays within the particular remit of the Constitution. That is to fulfill my obligation as a conduit between the party and the party secretariat, ensure that the secretariat is managed in an effective, efficient manner, to ensure that the party organization is well aware of what policies and programs are implemented at the national level, and it is executed throughout the regions and groups. So to answer, basically, I intend to fulfill those requirements. I will not get into the allegations made by my the erstwhile General Secretary. I think it's the dawn of a new era. It's a dawn of a new day, and we need to work. We have rolled out a series of programs, boots on the ground. We are now visible in every region. We are doing the work that needs to be done to win an elections, and I'll keep my focus there. Thank you.
Mr. Dennis?
Yes, based on your responses to my colleague's question about why these changes were not made by the APU government, is it then fair to conclude that based on what you've said there, that should you be re-elected to government, then there'll be no need for these amendments?
No, that cannot be implied. That cannot be implied. In a society, you always try to strengthen regulations to serve a particular purpose. I think that we're at a point where we recognize what is happening within the procurement system and the need for us to strengthen certain legislation or bring new legislation to ensure that we stay on top of it. And so that is what we intend to do when we get government, Dennis. There is no rolling back. I can commit to you that we will have zero tolerance, as I said earlier, for corruption. But while I expect when we get government the corruption to subside, we will still move forward in strengthening whatever agencies. Look, to put it more into context, the last time we were in government, our economy was much smaller. The government budget was much smaller. Now we have oil and gas, which is much, much, much bigger. The last budget is $1.46 trillion. We left a budget there of about 300, I think 300.4 billion dollars when we left office. So as government grows, as the agencies grows, there will be need to bring new legislation and to relook at the existing legislation, all aimed at strengthening the processes. So you would expect the same which would have obtained in 2015. It is not the same situation. It will not be the same situation in 2025.
Thank you. I will take one more question if there is anything here. Almost out of time. With there being no other questions, I want to thank our media personnel for joining today's press, and of course, I want to thank our viewing audience today, and we do hope that you have a wonderful